The United Arab Emirates controls some of the most vast oil reserves on the planet, making it incredibly wealthy on paper. But right now, this petrostate is quietly running out of actual physical cash to keep its economy functioning. To stop a total liquidity collapse, Emirati officials recently traveled to Washington to meet with the U.S. Treasury Secretary. They were there to ask for a wartime financial lifeline. The cause of this emergency is a physical, kinetic military blockade. The escalating U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict has effectively shut down the primary artery for energy shipping in the Middle East. This chart illustrates the sheer scale of the disruption in the Strait of Hormuz. Tanker traffic has dropped by roughly 95%, and new crude oil loadings have essentially flatlined, down 99%. Ships simply cannot transit this choke point without severe risk of being hit by missiles or drones. As a result, the region's main export is completely trapped at the ports. A military standoff over shipping needs has instantly triggered a severe sovereign liquidity crisis for one of America's closest regional allies. There is a major difference between sovereign wealth and daily liquidity. You can have billions of dollars worth of oil sitting in underground reserves, but if you can't sell it today, you can't pay your bills tomorrow. With the shipping lanes effectively closed, Emirati oil is stuck on the docks, meaning it isn't being sold on global markets. This diagram illustrates how, because that oil is not reaching buyers, the massive daily influx of US dollars that the UAE relies on completely stops. That sudden lack of incoming cash creates a rapid domestic ripple effect. Foreign investors panic and pull their money out of the region, which then forces local banks to freeze lending to businesses and citizens. To make matters worse, the UAE pegs its own currency, the dirham, directly to the US dollar. To defend that exchange rate and keep their money from losing value, the central bank requires a constant, heavy supply of US currency. Without that constant daily circulation of American cash, even the richest petrostate's economy will quickly grind to a halt. To survive this cash drought, the UAE has proposed a specific solution to the United States, setting up a currency swap line. In the global financial system, the U.S. Federal Reserve acts as the ultimate lender of last resort, possessing the unique ability to print and distribute dollars worldwide. A swap line works like this. The Fed temporarily lends billions in U.S. dollars to a foreign central bank. In exchange, it takes that country's local currency as collateral. This ensures foreign banks have the cash they need to stay liquid. Historically, the U.S. only deploys these emergency swap lines during massive, systemic global market crashes, like the 2008 financial crisis or the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Washington is highly reluctant to use a tool designed for global economic stabilization to bail out a single localized economy caught up in a regional military conflict. But denying this request leaves the UAE severely exposed, forcing them to seriously consider an economic alternative that Washington has spent decades trying to prevent. If the United States refuses the swap line, Emirati officials have signaled they will be forced to start trading their oil in Chinese yuan. That proposition directly targets the petrodollar system, the bedrock of American global economic dominance. This map shows the petrodollar system. It ensures all international oil transactions are priced exclusively in US dollars. Because oil is universally needed, every nation must hold massive dollar reserves. This constant demand artificially props up US currency, allowing the government to borrow cheaply. If the global oil trade begins to diversify away from the dollar, that mandatory global demand evaporates. The immediate results for the US would be plummeting demand for its debt and a sharp spike in domestic inflation. The UAE pricing its oil in yuan is a direct threat to dismantle the foundation of the US dollar's global dominance. China has spent years quietly building the financial plumbing required to bypass the petrodollar system. They are already the top trading partner for the Middle East and North Africa, and they have successfully established cross-border yuan clearing centers throughout the region. In fact, China has already signed its own multi-billion-dollar currency swap agreements directly with Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Their influence extends beyond finance. China is actively offering advanced military hardware to Gulf nations, filling the gap left by restrictive U.S. arms sales. Iran is now using the physical blockade to accelerate this transition, proposing to allow safe passage for oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, but exclusively for transactions denominated in yuan. Through these calculated moves, China has successfully positioned the yuan as a geopolitical shield, offering an alternative to the US-led order during a time of intense regional warfare. If a staunch US ally like the UAE officially abandons the dollar to survive a crisis, it sends a clear signal to the rest of the world that American currency is no longer a reliable safe haven. This creates a severe dilemma for the US Treasury. Granting the swap line deeply entangles the US financial system in a volatile Middle East war just to keep an ally's economy afloat. Refusing the swap line forces the UAE directly into China's financial ecosystem, risking the irreversible collapse of the petrodollar system. That quiet Washington meeting was a negotiation over the survival of Western financial dominance. By forcing the issue, the UAE has pushed global economic power to the brink of a permanent transfer from west to east.